Hi, my name's Reed Schindel, and this is my new student dialogue. Um, I did the dialogue group called Invisible Inequalities. This is only skin deep. I probably really had no real reason for doing this dialogue. There was nothing, that compelled me to do it. It was just more or less something I went into with kind of an open mind. I obviously knew that, the large portion of it, just based on its title, was going to be about racism and about, more so equality, whether it's racism or feminism or sexism or, just equality differences between, different members of the human race. So, that's kind of what I started with mentally as I went into this meeting. And honestly, our group was an interesting group. I mean, it was probably about 25 to 30 people, mixed gender, mostly white. I believe there was a Indian in our group, a few African Americans, and other than that, it was mostly whites. There were two females who led the group, one white, one black. I kind of think that was purposeful in their making of the groups to, make it that way. But as far as the group itself goes, we're asked to, reflect upon a few things. The first one is, do you feel your group achieved true dialogue? You know, it's interesting, and I doubt in any of these sessions that a person could, really achieve true dialogue. And it's probably hard to because, and I guarantee you it was achieved in some groups, but in our case, I doubt it truly was. You had a group of people, on a fairly sensitive subject racism, sexism, whatever social inequality group you want to pick. It's a fairly sensitive subject, especially to people who've been subject to it. So, I doubt on that subject people are going to really speak their mind. I doubt they're really going to, reveal who they truly are, what their, innermost thoughts are on the subject, because, the big fears of offending people. Uh, Interestingly, I don't know why, people are so afraid of offending people, especially when they're people they'll probably never see again. But, nonetheless, one of the most, innate fears we have is of offending people. So, I doubt in that capacity that true dialogue was ever achieved. But furthermore, as we start, we'll start talking about, there were some other questions regarding this. Were there active voices in your dialogue? Again, I'll probably have to go and say no. More or less, there were some people who talked more than others. There were some people who understood, you could tell there were people who wanted to talk and, for their own personal reasons didn't say much. Again, I think it goes back to the fear of offending others. But, that it was very interesting just to observe. No one really talked. It was fairly quiet. The group leaders weren't very good. A lot of what they said wasn't audible at all. Uh, they just honestly did a very poor job of encouraging thought and discussion, and I think that in turn, led us to not talk as much. Personally, I was probably a passive voice. There were many passive voices in the group, or as the dialogue question says, reserve voices. I was fairly reserved. There were people in the group I knew. There were people in the group who, you know, I encounter on a daily basis. And, there were people who I didn't want to offend. And I just, it, maybe it was fear of offending, maybe it wasn't. But whatever the case, there were just people, and I felt, maybe I felt uncomfortable saying this or this, in front of a group of people that I didn't know. Um, you know, I'm not a racist. I have no racist thoughts. I'm on the track and field team. A lot of my team is African American. My coach is African American. My advisors are African American. You know, and they're all great people. They're all tremendous people who are very encouraging. Who help me. Who it's I have no racist thoughts, but at the same time, I don't want to speak my mind in a group setting like that. And I don't know why, but it's just, maybe like I said, it's fear of offending. And I don't I don't know. For the most part, I don't think anybody really talked a ton. But on the other hand, I don't think we were encouraged to, and I think that goes back to the passivity of our leadings. Um, I'm just browsing the other questions here. One of them is, why do you think dialogue is a component of C1000? Do you see dialogue as a useful tool in your university experience? I, I think conceptually it's probably useful. I don't think if it was not conceptually useful, they would do it. They obviously thought that it was conceptually useful when they imagined it. Otherwise, they probably wouldn't have done it. And so, to some administration or to some advisor at some point, this is very conceptually, important. I think practically though, it's pretty bad. I don't think it's important practically. Maybe it's a way to meet people, but those aren't, at least from what I experienced, the relationships, however brief, they're very brief encounters, and you are not meeting anyone. You're not typically interacting with anyone other than, in a very controlled environment with, incredibly stringent rules where, so I just, reflecting, I don't think it's a valuable experience. I think to someone it is maybe, but not to me. On a personal level, I really could care less. It very much felt like, just showing up somewhere because I was required to do something I honestly didn't care that much about. And that's my opinion on it. Um, so as I reflect, I've answered the majority of the questions that have been asked of me, given a little personal reflection. And as I, continue, I don't think it's a very valuable experience. Like I said, it's a pretty reserved experience. The people who led it weren't entirely great. I'm not afraid to give that negative feedback because at the same time, I don't think it's something that, every student needs to undergo because I don't think it's something that every student values equally. And like I said, I guarantee you that there are some people who valued it incredibly, but at the same time, and I think I can speak for the other people in my group, that, a lot of them left there, kind of like, well, I sat here for 2 hours and, largely did nothing. So those are my thoughts on the new student dialogue as a component of the CU 1000 course. Again, my name is Reed, and I did the Invisible Inequalities is Only Skin Deep section. Thanks for your time. Goodbye.